Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon and I serve as your host. Here in Ventura County, we have a very active music scene, both in bars and different facilities, especially down our closed Main Street, where it certainly comes alive at night. I had the advantage of meeting someone who's a player and I'm seeing him down in the write-off room. But in the rest of his life, he does some very good work assisting authors in getting their books published. So today my guest is Joel Gotler. Welcome, Joel, to Get Moving TV.
Hi, Chris. Glad to be here.
Well, thanks for coming up. I know you
Sure.
you live a ways away. And,
Yeah.
but
I live in Minnesota. It was a long drive, but I drove fast. I got here on time.
that's good. We had a little traffic, I know, in your way, but I think it was snow in the Rocky Mountains and so forth.
Mud slides, rock slides, but I got here. And that's all that counts.
That is what counts.
Okay.
So really where I'd like to start is kind of where you started. We talked about driving across the United States. So
So here's how my career started. I graduated from the University of Hartford with a member of Who's Who in Colleges of America, and I made Dean's List 7 out of 8 semesters, and I graduated without a clue of what I was going to do with my life. I studied speech and drama. When your age, we didn't have the cameras, but I persevered and fell into the wonderful I don't know period of life, where you just don't know and you have to let the truth find you. So the truth found me through a head of human resources at WNEW television, who after an interview with me said, "You should be an agent." And I said, "Okay, then that's what I'm going to be." And that's how my career started. I started in the mailroom at the William Morris Agency in New York City. But I didn't start there right away, because once I learned I should become an agent, I opened an agency in my 8x12 maids' quarters room on the corner of 83rd Street and Madison Avenue in New York. I had 4 misfit high school friends of mine join me, and we called ourselves Soapbox Enterprises, which is the stupidest name you could ever dream of for a talent agency. And about 6 months into having no money and having no career and doing nothing, I got a call from the human resources at William Morris that there was a job opening. And so I took that job. I closed up the agency. All my friends either died or overdosed or had another career going. So I took that job and I started in the mailroom, and I was fortunate that that I was able to elevate out of the mailroom in about 3 weeks, because I could type and I could take shorthand, because I knew before I accepted the job, part of it was I had to learn speed writing. So instead of taking a speed writing course, I took a speed writing from books. So I was a very valuable asset to the agency in that regard. They just lost an assistant, but here I came with all sorts of intellectual pursuits and the ability to write, to deliver mail and to say hello on the phone. And the fact that I grew up behind a candy store part of my life with my mother and my 2 half-sisters sleeping on the floor, working the store, gave me this ability, this gift of gab. So that really helps you if you want to be an agent. Working at William Morris taught me that I was not good with actors or directors or people with egos 100 times the size of the state of Rhode Island. It just wasn't for me. So let's put a pin in that for a moment, and I'll tell you how I got to Los Angeles. At one of the tapings in New York City, I met Mama Cass Elliot from the Mamas and Papas. We hit it off. I signed her to the William Morris Agency with one of the agents in California, and subsequently got let go from the agency because there was a writer's strike. And Cass Elliot said to me, "Well, you're just going to have to leave New York and come live in my house with me until you get a job." I said, "Okay," and I did. I left New York. I lived with Cass Elliot till the day she died. I was writing a script with a friend of mine in New York, and we finished the script. She dies. I gave Jack Lemmon, the actor, my script. We had become friendly over the years. He became my agent and actually optioned the script to Universal Studios, and I became one of the youngest executive assistants to the head of the studio, Jennings Lang. That didn't last either. So here I am, failing up every time, right? Failing, getting fired, not picking up my option, not picking up my option. So here I am without a job, with a lot of connections, a lot of friends in the industry, but no job. And I'm reading the Hollywood Variety magazine every day to see if I could find a job. And then it appeared, literary agent wanted. And I said, oh God, please let me have this job. And they said, please write a letter. And I wrote a letter to this person I never heard of. It was a blind ad, so I wrote the letter. Then I suddenly got a call about a week or two later from a man named H.N. Swanson, who I'd never heard of, and I've heard of all the agencies and all the agents in town, never heard of this guy. So he calls me in, and I walk into this office with hunter green carpets and mahogany walls and a swordfish that I learned later on this man who I'm going to meet caught with Ernest Hemingway. So I walked into this office, and this man who was 78, I was 27, asked me if I knew any of his clients. His clients were Raymond Chandler, James Cain, Arthur Haley, Elmore Leonard, and Ira Levin, J.R.R. Tolkien, John O'Hara, you name it. This guy represented them. He owned the second oldest literary agency in Hollywood. I worked for him for 4.5 years, and he decided he wanted to give me my own agency in conjunction with his. That announcement went out globally, and I became a heavyweight in the business of selling books to publishers, books to film, books to TV, books to stage, books to audio, because this man, H.N. Swanson, a.k.a. Swanee, was one of 2 people in Hollywood who could sell books to publishers. It was verboten for a Hollywood agent to deign that they could sell a book to a New York publisher, because in New York, all of the deals were made by New York literary agents, except for Swanee, who said, He said, I'm going to sell books myself, and if you don't like it, too bad. So I'm in this position now. I inherited this man's, when he passed away, the widow came to me and said, we've had 2 bids on the agency, but Swanee would have wanted you to have the company. You know, he adored you. He thought you were kind of a reincarnation of himself. And how much do I have to come up with? And she said a big, big number, which I had to come up with in 3 days to buy the second oldest agency in Hollywood. And I had close friends who loaned me the money, who believed in me. And that's what I did. I bought his agency. I went out on my own at the age of 33. I had my own agency in Hollywood and making some money. The bigger agencies were stealing my big clients. So I said, now's the time for me to merge. So I picked out an agency. I merged with them. And didn't get along with the people because I'm not good under authority. I'm good on my own. I'm good to be a survivor, naked and afraid, let's say, but not good taking orders, I must say. Except in the candy store, they say, give me an ice cream soda, give me a pack of cigarettes. Those orders I'll take. So anyway, I merged with an agency. That didn't work out, and I wound up going back on my own with all the clients that I had from the years with H.N. Swanson. And if you look up H.N. Swanson, if you look up F. Scott Fitzgerald, you'll see that Fitzgerald talks about Swanee about 50 times in his book. They had a volatile relationship, and I could tell you stories about Fitzgerald and O'Hara and the old days of Hollywood that would really, I would hope, enwrap you. So I went out on my own, and I wound up actually owning the Swifty Lazar agency too at one point. Swifty Lazar as Swanson, my Swanee was of the intellect and started College Humor magazine and could recite poems from Tennyson and just brilliant, wore a boutonniere every day. Irving Lazar was always on the run. That's why his name was Swifty. And he was very much in the talent business. And what he would do, he would go to a producer, let's say you're Walter Mirisch and you wanted to make West Side Story, and Irving would come to you and say, Walter, do you want to have Natalie Wood in your movie? And Irving and Walter Mirisch would say, yeah, can you get her for me, Irving? He said, yep. And by that night, Swifty Lazar had Natalie Wood's signature. And Swifty began to package and put all the elements into West Side Story. How he did it, nobody knows. So at the end of the day, or the end of the week, when Mirisch said, Swifty, who do you represent in all this? He said, you. And so that was Swifty. Everybody had their own agent, and Swifty Lazar. So Michael Corder wrote that in a book once. Everybody had their own agent and Swifty Lazar. And so there were 3 big agencies in Hollywood along Sunset Boulevard. One was the Paul Kohner Agency, the magician of Sunset Boulevard. One was H.N. Swanson, and his offices still exist on the corner of La Cienega and Sunset Boulevard. And the other was Swifty Lazar, who had his offices in Beverly Hills. And that's a brief summary of how I got here. And because I'm a musician as well, and I've rubbed elbows with musicians, I wound up representing Sting as his literary agent. I represented Roger Ebert. I represented Fran Drescher, the head of the Producers Guild, as their literary agents. But there was a wrinkle in my career. I know I'm digressing and moving around a lot here, but I want to try to get a lot in a few minutes. Michael Ovitz is a famous person in Hollywood history. He started an agency called Creative Artists Agency, and when I built my agency up, at some point he bought it about 25 years ago. And so I worked with, I licensed my agency to him for 3 years. And then he went under because he spent too much money, and he alienated the agency that he started. And they said, Mike, don't steal clients from us. And Mike said, I don't care. I'm going to steal clients. So when the biggest agency in Hollywood stops doing business with you, you're in trouble. And that's what happened. And so here I am, boop, plooped out again, now on my own. And I've been on my own now for, not my own, with the same clients again for about 30 years. I represent some big people. I still represent the estates of John O'Hara and James M. Cain, who wrote Double Indemnity, The Postman Always Rings Twice. Some of you are probably too young to know, but if you're film students, you have to know who these people are. And I represent the estate of Frank McCourt, who wrote Angela's Ashes, and the Nobel Prize-winning science fiction author Stanislaw Lem, and I represent Michael Connelly, and I represent the estate of Sue Grafton, and I represent the estate of Michael Jordan, who's a big science fiction writer. The Wheel of Time is going into its 3rd season that I'm behind. I was the agent behind that. And I represent Viet Nguyen, who's the Pulitzer Prize winning Pulitzer Prize, MacArthur Award, Guggenheim Award winning tenured USC professor who teaches at Harvard, and his series, The Sympathizer, is going to screen next week. It'll be on the air by the end of the year. And like that. So we have about 100 clients of that caliber. And, I want to circle back to Ovitz. So when Ovitz bought part of what makes me indispensable in Hollywood is my relationship with agents all over the world selling their film rights, TV rights, stage rights, audio rights. But when Michael Ovitz bought my business, a lot of the agents jumped ship on me because they said that Michael Ovitz is going to also steal our clients, and we can't have that. So that hurt me to an extent, but when that gig was over, I still retained relationships with many of the agents I've represented for 30 years. And I learned one lesson in Hollywood which I couldn't understand for years and years when people said it's a business of relationships. And I couldn't understand what you mean, a business of relationships. And then I got it, that you should show up at every party, you should be at every screening, you should be at every meeting, you should be everywhere you can to build relationships with people in the business. So for me, having attention deficit, having severe post-traumatic stress disorder and social anxiety, I picked the lane that I should be in, which is the literary book-to-film business. My clients really hardly talk back to me, especially the estates. They don't talk back at all. Their relatives do. But with writers, they go off and they write. You make their deal. They call you a couple of times a year, and that's it. It's not, I mean, representing an actor is brutal. I was married to an actress once, and I tell you, it was brutal. They're so needy and so, I don't know what. But it wasn't, I prefer to be with a normal human being. So that's pretty much my story, yeah.
Did you get into producing at all?
You know, I was executive producer on the Wolf of Wall Street. I was executive producer on Mr. Popper's Penguins, and an associate producer on Ferdinand the Bull. I'm going to be the executive producer on the Sue Grafton series at Netflix, and I'm going to be the executive producer on another series at Netflix called The Kind Worth Killing. And I've got 80 or more projects in development moving forward. Some of which I'll either attach myself as a producer, or I'll commission the producer or something. But for years and years, I learned not just to give away, just take your percentage on the book rights money, on the film purchase price money, but get some other money coming in from other elements. Why let other agencies take what belongs to you? So there is something in the television business which doesn't exist anymore called a packaging commission, which the agencies would get. Agencies would get 5% of the budget of every show as a package commission. So for 20 years, I'd be selling the rights to a book, and somebody from ICM would be getting a package commission. I'm saying, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I've just made $750. Something's wrong here. So that's why I lean toward making some more money, and the people I represent don't mind it. The agents I co-represent don't mind it because they're making all the money on the book sales. So when The Wheel of Time went on the air, 2 seasons, the agent told me their royalty check, book royalty check, was enormous. Do I get any of that? No. Which is why I turned to putting myself in a position to make some more money. For instance, when H.N. Swanson hired me, he was paying me $225 a week, and my friends at the same level were making $1,100 a week. And so it's pretty hard to live on $200 a week, as you know, even today, and even back then. So at one point I was getting hot, and when I mean hot is the other agencies wanted me to take my list and bring it to them. And I told Swanee this, and I said, Mr. Swanson, I can't. You're killing me with this salary. And he said, well, what were you offered? I said, $800 a week. He said, you were? I said, yeah. He said, well, you go back and tell these people I offered you $900 a week. I said, really? From $225 to $900 a week? He said, yep. And if they offer you $1,000 a week, you take that job and pay me $100 a week commission. I said, son of a gun, I got trapped again. This wise old owl has me eating out of his hand. So as I said, after that, Swanee said, go get a lawyer, and come in tomorrow morning. And then he made me his, by contract, which I still have, the only partner he ever had in show business. And I've been able to stand on my own since June 9th, 1976, with the list of writers I represent. I brought Clive Barker to the United States, the thriller writer, the horror writer. I've done a lot, guys, an awful lot.
Yeah.
An
Well,
awful lot.
Were you much of a reader in high school?
You know, Chris, I didn't start to read until college. Then I started to say, you know, you're not a very social guy, so why don't you get as many books as you can, stay in your goddamn room and read? And that's what I did. And I read and I read and I read, and I kept reading and reading, and I read everything. So by the time I was being interviewed by people out here who didn't read and still don't read, they thought I was like, I don't know what, H.L. Mencken, you know? So, yeah, the reading came lately, but interestingly enough, I was a great student. For some reason, I don't know how.
Just fitted that part of your life.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's talk about the other part of your life there.
Oh, yeah.
What have you got in your pocket there,
in
mister?
my office, on my desk chair, there's a pillow which says, I'd rather be playing the harmonica. And for 60 years, I have been playing the harmonica. And I'm pretty good at it. And I'm going to show you how to play the scale. Okay?
All right. Well done.
Thank you.
So what key is that
This
harmonica?
is the key of C, and it's a cross harp. So you would be, if you were playing the guitar, you'd be playing the key of G. If you're playing the guitar in the key of C, I'd be playing a harmonica in the key of F.
So you got a whole bag full of
I have
harmonicas.
170 harmonicas.
But that's not enough.
Not enough. I carry around about 12. I'm going to be playing in Nashville in August because I play with a band. So what I just did was improvise, but I have my own, you know, sections to play in, and I'm going to play in the Valley again soon. I forget the name of the club, but
The write-off room, or
no,
you
no,
have a new
someplace
one?
else,
No.
some other venue. But
So so what techniques did you demonstrate there? So you're breathing in, breathing out, your tongue's going crazy places.
Yeah, some of the secrets are, one, never have your lips leave the harmonica, and two, get an embouchure, get your, where you can play a single note. I mean, mostly harmonicas are, and then bending, right, is a
Okay.
technique. That's the blues scale.
Flatted thirds, flatted fifths.
Yeah, and then you can tongue the harmonica.
Did
Yeah,
you sound like a train?
tremolo. And then the train. And the position you hold the harmonica in, it makes a big difference. If you hold it this way or this way, that's bending a note. That's cheating, because you're supposed to do that without, you're supposed to be able to do.
So that's what the second hand to cover that up so they don't know you're cheating.
Right,
I like it. Very nice. Very nice.
And today you can get so many harmonica lessons on the through the internet. It's incredible. There's a great one by Paul Butterfield. There's a terrific documentary about him. Yeah, I suggest you watch it.
How many great YouTube videos about becoming a book agent?
Yeah, book agent, I mean, really, Chris, I spent so many years going into publishers into New York City, flying on my own dime, because as you may assume, Swanson was very cheap. And I was begging these publishers to do business with me, begging, please buy a book from me, please. Jose Ibert, the hair cutter, I sold his book, all right, way back when. But that's how you do it. You've got to just beg and plead. I mean, why would they give me a book when they can give William Morris or ICM or CAA or one of the, right? So it was personality, it was perseverance, it was humility, right? It wasn't, hey, I'm a big agent and who are you? You're just an editor. I make more money than you do. None of that. So that's how it worked for me. And I would read. An agent would give me a book to read, and Swanee would give me a book to read. Not only did I read it that night, I'd have it sold to a studio by the next day.
Well, Joel, thank you so much for being on our show.
I'm sorry for rambling on like a maniac.
No. There's
okay.
a lot of lessons there in terms of...
Well, you could pick, cherry pick what I've said. And,
so Ventura, fail up, persevere, learn to play the harmonica. And it's time for you, Ventura.
And don't be afraid of change.
And change is okay. So get moving.